Hello friends, and welcome to another video lesson from DBOS Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This is the fifth video in a playlist called Serious Fun with SQL, and here we'll be learning how to use SQL in generating a password. To accomplish this, we'll be creating an SQL function. Okay, so the first thing is I will create an SQL function. Okay, created. So I'll walk you through the structure of it. So we create a function called generate password. It will return a value of type varchar2. Here are just two variables I'm declaring. So here are some comments. I will be using a select statement. I'll be generating a randomly generated password using an Oracle built-in function called dbmsrandom. So it has a couple of variations. One is generating a string, a random string, or generating a random number. Okay, so select init cap dbmsrandom. This is the package of Oracle that gives you the facility, the capability to generate random values. So in this case, a string. Generate a string of L is lowercase of length 15. This one is just an alias. So select into this variable from the now familiar dual table. If you're not familiar with dual table, you can look it up, you can Google it, or you can check out my previous videos in this same playlist. So this is the first part, generating a random string password. I mean, a password composed of letters, literal characters, or can be a mix. Second is it will generate a number between 0 and 9, a whole number. So how do I do that? I again use the dbmsrandom package. In this case, I will use the .value function, and you can see what will happen. So I'll generate a string, I'll generate a number, and then I'll put them together, concatenate them, and it is here. Return vPassword, which is the randomly generated string, and then I have a double pipe to concatenate or to join with the value of the second variable, which is the vnum, which is the randomly generated number, a whole number between 0 and 9. How do I make it whole number? With the use of the trunc or truncate function. So without any options to it, when you do a truncate on a number, it eliminates any decimal values. Okay, so that is the function that I created, which is not very long. Okay, it is using dbmsrandom function, package. Next is I will call the function which I created. So we call it via a select statement, select, and then the function name from dual. Okay, if I will execute that, then if you look at the bottom, it has generated for us a randomly generated password. I'll take it from there and then put it here. And then if you look at it, it has an uppercase letter. The rest are lowercase characters, and there's a number to it. If we look again at the function called generate password, this uppercase at the very first character position is an effect of this function called init cap, initial caps. And then the rest is most of it is in lowercase because of this dbmsrandom.string, and then there's an option of or a parameter of L, meaning lowercase. And if you see the length is 15, then the total length is 15. And it ends with a numeral, with a number, because of this action here. We had the second select statement, which generates a random number between 0 and 9, a whole number, an integer, and that value is being joined or concatenated with the first generated random value, which is a string or letters. So that is how this was generated. Okay, so again, you call or invoke a function via a select statement. Select the function name from dual table that is in the Oracle way. So every time you call this function, if you notice, if I do a control enter over here to execute the select statement, every time I execute it, it will generate a new password. Now it begins with H and the last digit is 6. If I run this again, then it's a B and the last digit is a 7. You see? So that's how it behaves. Now, if we will try to generate a password for a list of names, we can also do that. So I'm putting here a comment, generate passwords for a list of names. Maybe in our office, the workplace, using SQL, we were told to generate passwords, different passwords for a list of names. Okay, you can do this. This can be done in SQL Developer or in SQL Plus, SQL Plus of Oracle. So set server output on is a command at the very beginning, at the topmost, which is you're telling the Oracle engine, database engine, to display the server output. Feedback off is just to switch off feedback messages from the database engine, which are usually shown at the very bottom of the output. So again, these commands are mainly used in either in SQL Plus of Oracle or in SQL Developer of Oracle. In this case, we're using SQL Developer, SQL Developer. SQL is just like a faster way of saying SQL. Okay, so this is what you call in Oracle anonymous PL SQL block. Anonymous because it doesn't have a name. It is not a procedure, it's not a function, but technically it works the same way, only that it doesn't have a name. So it's called an anonymous PL SQL block or PLSQL block. So we have a declare statement here. Under it are the variables that you want to declare. And I have here a for loop for cost in, and then I have a select statement. In this case, the list of customers or the list of names that I'm interested in, that I wanted to generate passwords for, are, in this case, they are in a table. So it could be in a file, it could be in a table, it doesn't matter. So in this case, I'm showing you that the scenario we're in, you have a list of names of people for whom you want to generate passwords. And it so happened that they're in a table. But even if they are not in a table, you could do it also. You could do it both ways. Okay, so I'm just showing you a list of names taken from a table. So if I will just query this, the inner SQL, you can see these are the names in that list. So we have your 4 customers in this case. So with this short code with a for loop, which will loop through this list of names, we intend to generate randomly passwords for each of these customers. Okay, so I will generate this. So as you can see in the output, it listed the 4 customers, which earlier I've shown you are found in the table called customer. So it lists the 4 customers, and opposite, for each of these names, it generated randomly a password with the structure I've shown you earlier, which is it starts with an uppercase letter, the rest in lowercase letters, and it ends with a single-digit number, which is something that we have seen as a convention, something preferred by many companies these days for security reasons, having a relatively strong password. It has to have an uppercase letter, lowercase letter, it has a number, and in some cases, they also prefer to have a special character thrown in. Okay, so here we have seen using an anonymous PL/SQL block to generate passwords for multiple names. Okay, the next we're gonna do is put this code into a file. So what I've already put this code in a file, and then I've saved it in the file system of my desktop. So I'll put this, okay, here. This is another way of calling it. So I've shown you different ways of calling it. One is I created a function and then I called that function using a select statement, a single line of select statement. And then next is I wrote an anonymous PL/SQL block to generate random passwords for multiple people from a list of people. And then in this case, I have put in that code that you've seen previously. I put it in a file at this location, C:\demo, and this is the file name. So in Oracle, actually this file, if you were to call a SQL script in this manner, it must be a file that ends with SQL. Okay, and then when you want to run it, you don't have to mention the .SQL. You can skip it and it will still work fine. So I will do that now. Okay, so that means that it executed the contents of this SQL script and the output is also. See, you can see the output is similar, in fact, exactly the same as the one you've seen in a previous example I've shown you only seconds ago. That's because it's exactly the same kind of code. I just put it in a text file, in a SQL script, and then you invoke it, you call it in this manner, and then you fully qualify the path and the file name. And even though it's a SQL script, you don't have to mention that .SQL. You can, if you want to, it will not make a difference. Sorry. Okay, yeah. But you can also skip it. Erase this. If I skip the .SQL, it will work just fine. Okay, that's the Oracle behavior. So again, note that if I rerun this script, it will generate, each time I rerun, it will generate a different randomly generated password. See, let's say John Doe has a password of DJH something. I'll run this now again. And it's a different password each time you run. Okay, so there you have it. I hope we've learned something new from this video on how to generate passwords. What's the application for this at the corporate setting for new employees, somebody who is a newly registered user of an application? This is the standard way of doing it in the corporate way, which is initially that user or that employee will be assigned a system-generated password, just such as this one. And upon initial login, he'll be prompted to change his password. Okay, that's the very practical, real-world application of this use case. Okay. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've learned something new from this. And these are some of the golden nuggets of and the benefits that you can get from having the knowledge of SQL, regardless of the flavor of it. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you do. You click subscribe now, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the